The high school next door here is having some function of some sort, and they're blasting music, etc. But hopefully, it will not affect our recording. This is a report on India's energy statistics for 2025. Obviously interested because I live in India now, plus India is one of the major developing countries now that needs to move to clean energy, decarbonize, phase out coal, etc. So this is put together by Government of India, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, and there are others involved here that I won't go into. Let's read the executive summary and then look at a few numbers. Energy is an essential ingredient for almost all human activities, be it the power sector, the industry, transportation, or the household. The requirement of energy is indispensable and ubiquitous. In the financial year 2023-24, India has experienced a steady and healthy growth in both energy supply and consumption by overcoming the shock of global pandemic. So COVID came and went, but India stayed with the plan and is ahead in terms of the renewables deployment for 2030. They think it's already accomplished the goals by 2025. Indian economy continued to have higher quench for energy to support the rapidly expanding urbanization and industrialization and the vision of becoming Viksit Bharat 2047, which is the developed India goal that it has. 2047 is the 100th anniversary of India's independence from the British, so that's a very critical milestone. Key highlights of the overall performance of the energy sector of India during FY 2023-2024 are as follows. As on March 31st, 2024, the reserves of coal stood at 389.42 billion tons, of which Odisha has the highest share of 25.47%, followed by Jharkhand at 23.5%, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh. The proved reserves, those that are economically mineable, consists of around 55% of the total coal reserves in India. So these are the numbers that we'll look at the plots as well. And there is also oil. The estimated crude oil reserves were 671.40 million tons, of which Western offshore accounted for around 32%. Natural gas reserves were recorded at 1,094.19 billion cubic meters during FY 2023-24. This is primarily located at the western offshore, followed by eastern offshore and Assam, which is a northeastern state. The estimated potential for generation of energy from renewable resources have reached 21 lakh 9,655 megawatts as on March 31st, 2024. Highest potential for generation of energy comes from wind at 150 meter measured, which is at 11 lakh 63,856 megawatts, followed by solar at 7,48,990 megawatts and large hydro at 1,33,410 megawatts. Capacity of coal washeries in India has played a staggered growth over the year from 131.4 million tons a year as on March 31st, 2025 to 257.79 million tons per year as on March 2015 to 2024. Coal remained the backbone of India. We will look at it. India wants to phase it out. Everybody wants India to phase it out, but obviously India is not energy independent. It is deploying lots of renewables, and most of the coal-based power production went down in 2025, I think, and in fact China and India reduced coal power production compared to previous years, and US went up, and India and China made up for that upswing in U.S. Coal power. Okay, the gross generation of electricity from the renewable resources, both utility and non-utility together, has also emerged significantly over the years from an amount of 205,608 gigawatts of electricity, which was generated during FY 2014-15, has increased to 3,70,320 gigawatt hours during FY 2023-24. So this is the cumulative annual growth rate of 6.76%. When I say 3,70,320, it's 370,320. In India, 100,000 is a lakh. To meet the domestic demand, India relies heavily on import of coal, crude oil, and natural gas. So even though we have coal and we burn coal, we also import coal. We import crude oil and refine it, and also import petrol products like natural gas, of course. Net import of coal rose by 11.2%. So coal power production went up, but coal import went up. As coal power production went down, coal import went up. So this is true for both China and India, I think. The import of crude oil also grew from 232 million tons to 234 million tons during FY 2023-24. There is a lot of negotiations going on. There are lots of negotiations going on between the US and India on where it can get its crude oil, and you may be following that whole thing about trying to isolate Russia. India's electricity availability showed a notable increase. The losses due to transmission and distribution stood at 17.08% during financial year 2023-24, and the net electricity available for supply grew by 7.25% over last FY, reaching at 16,46,998 gigawatt hours during FY 23-24. India's total primary energy supply, TPS, continued its steady growth post-COVID-19 with a 7.8% increase in FY 2023-24, accounting for 903,158 kilotons of oil equivalent over the previous year. So most of it, of course, comes from oil at coal at 60%, which is followed by crude oil at about 30%, natural gas at about 7%. Energy supplied from the renewable energy sources have experienced a healthy and consistent growth over the years, from an amount of 17,682 kilotons of oil equivalent during FY 2014-15 to 31,847 kiloton equivalent during FY 23-24, cumulative annual growth rate of 6.76% over 10 years, which is quite healthy. The energy generated by solar, wind, and others, excluding large hydro, has recorded a growth from 6,555 kilotons of oil equivalent. I keep saying of kiloton oil equivalent during 2014-15 to 20,289 kiloton oil equivalent during 2023-24. That is close to 210% over the past 10%. So renewables have seen a healthy deployment and growth in terms of installed capacities. The total final consumption of energy into different end user sectors has also experienced a sound rise, which corresponds to economic growth, of course. Total final consumption, TFC, of energy surged by over 38% since 2014-15, reaching at 613,605 kiloton oil equivalent in 23-24. In the year 2023-24, among all the end-use sectors, the industry sector saw the highest growth at 13.2%, and then comes transportation, commercial and public services, etc. Residential sector also rose steadily in terms of energy consumption, shows growth of cities, housing, in general, people moving into the middle class. The sector agriculture, forestry has also witnessed a sound increase of energy consumption, good for food security, and forest cover has shown an increase which is consistent with India's commitment to the Paris Agreement and increasing carbon sequestration into forests by about, I think, 2.5 gigatons per year by 2030, if I'm not mistaken. The per capita energy consumption, after excluding components like industry own consumptions, losses, etc., in India has also experienced per capita energy consumption in India has also experienced a growth over the years from an amount of 14,682 megajoule per person during FY 2014-15. The same has risen by over 25% during the last 10 years and reached 18,410 megajoule per person during FY 23-24. So obviously shows wealth growth, middle class expanding, consumption expanding, unfortunately. Appliances, etc. also go up. The per capita electricity consumption has gone up from 740 kilowatt hour per person during FY 2014-15 to 1,106 kilowatt hour per person during FY 2023-24, an increase of around 48% over the span of 10 years. Right? Finally, the overall energy intensity has witnessed a slight improvement during FY 23-24, that is the energy intensity of the GDP, which is good news and consistent with Paris Agreement commitments. In FY 2023-24, it took 0.2180 megajoules of energy to generate 1 Indian national rupee of GDP as compared to 0.2192 megajoule per INR of GDP in FY 2022-23, a small drop but still significant when you multiply by the total GDP. The energy intensity for industry has come down from 361.47 megajoule per thousand rupees of GDP to 284.20 megajoule per thousand rupees of GDP during 2023-24. India's dependency on energy imports has remained significant, which India wants to get out of, especially since all the hammering it's taking from the US on tariffs and Russian oil imports, etc. During FY 2023-24, the import dependency of crude oil was close to 89%, whereas the same was 46% for natural gas and 26% for coal. Okay, so let's run through some graphs, numbers, pie charts. Estimated reserves of coal in India, you can see it's 389.42 billion tons. Keeping this in the ground is going to be an issue unless other sources, even cleaner energy like natural gas, becomes much more available. Estimated reserves of lignite, which is the brown coal in India, is at 47.30 billion tons, with indicated, inferred and proved here, proved, indicated and inferred as well. This is estimated reserves of crude oil in India as of January 4th, 9/11. Yeah, so it is 1st April 2024. So you can see various states have the reserves of crude oil. Western offshore here, Assam, and then Rajasthan. Gujarat also has a significant portion with some from other states. Estimated reserves of natural gas, most of it is coming from Western offshore again. Assam is a good producer, and so is Eastern offshore at 24%. Okay. Source-wise estimated potential of renewable power in India as of March 31st, 2024, wind power at 55%, solar at 36%, large hydro and others make up 6% and 3% respectively. State-wise estimated potential of renewable power, India manages the overall power distribution properly. There are private players and government players, but states cannot monopolize, as we'll see the state versus private players in a minute. I think I have a figure on that. So here estimated potential of renewable power high in Rajasthan at 20%, and Maharashtra at 12%, Gujarat at 8%, and the others are Karnataka at 10%. Others are below 10% here. Coal mining is heavy in Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and so on, but they also have renewable potential, and I know that Odisha is doing well in producing surplus energy and selling it. I think Chhattisgarh does the same. Statewide installed capacity of coal washeries here, capacity in million tons per year. Chhattisgarh dominates, Jharkhand, Odisha, then Maharashtra and others. Coal has to go, but it won't go for at least a decade, maybe two. So look at the trends going from 2015 to 2024 projected. Utilities, non-utilities has remained steady with a little bump. Utilities have gone up, and so has the grand total, so utility plus non-utility. Trends in installed capacity generation, capacity from utilities, India source-wise, thermal, hydro, nuclear, and residual. So you can see coal still dominates, even though it's going down slightly, and then you make it up with hydro, and nuclear is a tiny fraction, but I hope so the rest of it is being made up. That's why renewables are coming in. As long as new demand for energy is being met with renewables, you can think of that as a good sign, because that means the base load can be managed with fossil fuel, and that can keep going. The base load of fossil fuel dependence of base load can keep going down. Okay, region-wise installed generation capacity of electricity, southern, western, northern, and eastern regions with northeastern. We are making predictions of solar and wind for Grid India, and we're starting with the western region, which is the largest of the installed generation capacity of electricity. So this is total installed capacity of 441.97 gigawatts. Share of total energy generated from primary energy sources, so comes from coal, most of it 79%, and then you have rest of it lignite, crude oil, natural gas, and from hydro, nuclear, and other RES, renewable energies. Total generated is at 21,452 petajoules. Sector-wise percentage distribution, solar and wind, and you have trend in production and import of coal India. So you can see production has gone up for both coking and non-coking. So imports have been ups and downs, but it's still imports, which is, almost 25%, which is not good. We want to phase out coal, maybe start by removing dependence on imports, but this is all dependent on global geopolitics of energy markets. Source-wise consumption of primary energy, coal is still the king here in total energy consumption. Consumption of electricity by sectors, industry dominates, domestic is second, but agriculture and commercial are also there, and they have gone up, which shows increased production, etc. Economic activity is GDP, but GDP energy intensity has dropped a slight bit from 2014-15 to 2023-24 as projected. This is per rupee of megajoule per rupee of GDP. So the total savings are quite nice. Okay. So quick run through. I wanted to include it since it's of great interest to me and probably for many other people. Okay, let's leave it here.